What's up, guys? Dwebble here with a quick deck profile that earned me my invite this past weekend at Cottondale, Alabama. I placed 20th out of 219 playing Control or Paleo dinos. Paleo is a bit of a misnomer. You'll see that in a minute. But let's go ahead and hop on into it. But before we do, we got some quick shout outs. Big thanks to Rashad and John, two of my buddies from locals, who do a lot of theory and testing with me. John, especially, we were testing the night before. Made a couple quick changes that came in clutch, and then a big shout out to the Dinosaur Discord. I'll post a link to that down below. The guys in there are great. Shout outs in particular for Giant Skyhawk. He's been testing this similar build on Dueling Book for a while. Does a lot of theorying with me on there. Pride was the guinea pig for one of the clutch techs that I've been debating a while and I never got around to. And he bubbled his event testing it, and I heard about his success with it and decided to go for it. And then my buddy Bam, we're always up to something theorying, even if it's not dinos. But without any further ado, let's hop into it. So first off, the best dinosaur we have, Soul Eating Oviraptor. Play starter. If you play dinos, you know what this card does. We have so many ways to see him turn one. You got to do it to get your combos. And Miscellaneousaurus is one of those combo pieces that go with them. This card's great. Anytime I play a deck that isn't dinosaurs, I will always have to stop and wonder, where's my Miscellaneousaurus for this deck? Because it just makes it so much better. Those are fairly standard. Next up, we have our one-ofs. For smaller guys, it's going to be Giant Rex and Megalo Smasher. Giant Rex is self-explanatory. He's a combo piece. Megalo Smasher. The deck has a lot of interactions with vanilla monsters between Lost World and one of the other cards that I'm running. And he's a 2K beater. I originally was running this a while back in older versions of the build, and I recently just brought it back when Pankratops got hit. So it's been performing great for me, though, ever since I brought it back. I'm really questioning why I ever cut it in the first place, but here we are. After that, we have our baby trio. We're running 2 petite Pteranodons and 1 baby Ceratosaurus. This ratio might be a little bit weird for people that aren't as familiar with the Control version. I see most builds, they run more babies than petites. Usually it's like 3. The popular build right now is True Kings, and it's running 3 babies and 1 petite, or 3 babies, 2 petite, because that's their combo piece. But for this deck, we're just trying to make a rank 4 in Pank usually on turn 1, and hopefully support it with a little bit of back row. And so we always want to leave a copy of Petite in deck to summon off a Miscellaneousaurus, and then it'll get destroyed during the end phase and summon Pankratops. As far as making the rank 4 to summon on our turn, both of these do the same. I don't really feel like being able to battle with the level 4 comes up a whole lot, which is the big plus side to baby versus petite. And so, like I said, we run 2 of these. If I do need a battle with it, the baby's in the deck usually for it. But after that, we have our WinCon, 2 copies of Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. This is like the best boss monster ever printed, let's be real. This deck would be a whole lot worse without a Conductor running around. And then our one of Pankratops. Banlist wasn't too nice to me. I used to run 2 of these instead of 3 because it is a going first build. So you didn't want to see him in your opening hand, but the problem is you want to leave him in deck to summon off the Petite Pteranodon. So I was running 2, and it's not bad to see when you lose a dice roll or something. But the ban list said no, so we're stuck with the 1 now. Still a great card though. You gotta play it. After that, we're moving on to our hand trap lineup. We're running 2 Nibiru. This is one of the things I was testing for a while. I was running Ash, but I was expecting to see a lot of Lunalights at the event actually. And I just felt like in a lot of my testing that Ash wasn't having a high enough impact for me, so I wanted something higher impact. Plus, like I said, we have interactions with normal monsters and tokens, and Nibiru gives your opponent a big old token usually, so we don't usually have problems removing it. It clears a board. It's great on the deck. Other one we're running, Hand Trap, is going to be our first actual trap. 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. This card came up so much in testing. I was expecting Shadal's. John was playing Lunalights the night before when we were testing, and just Imperm was stopping everything for me. Over the course of the weekend, I hit Inspector Border with it numerous times, and it just got me out of so many problem situations, just baiting things or, just getting them to negate and stopping their turn before they could get too far into it. So we're going to hop into our spells now. We have good dinosaurs. Good thing we have a Rhoda that searches any of them, depending on what the hand is calling for. This card is ridiculous. Not much more to say about that one. And then our best filled spell, Lost World. So good, we're going to actually run 4 copies of that one. You want to see this card, it's one of your other cards that combos with Obi really easily. There's also some other combos you can set up with it. Just giving them a token, protecting it. And one thing that people often forget with this card, it protects all normal monsters. Not just dinosaurs, not just tokens, not anything more specific than that. Just normal monsters. So you'll see why I'm running some of these other kind of maybe strange normal monsters. Megalo Smasher comes up. He can be a solid wall sometimes. You can kind of safely swing with him as a 2k body. And then on their turn, you know, worst case, if you don't do anything with him, you can protect him when they try to destroy him and get your engine going again. And they're not doing much damage over 2k typically, so pretty good option there. That's one of the interactions with them. Next up, sorry budget players, but we're also running 3 Pot of Extravagance. We like our extra deck, but we don't need it. So having the ability to draw 2 and plus like that is just incredible. Not much to say. It's earned its price tag. And then after that, we don't like auto losing the Mystic Mine or any like floodgates or anything. So we play 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone. It's just my spell trap removal of choice in the format. The cost has come up exactly one time, and I'm pretty sure I would have lost that game if the game would have gone on anyway. So it doesn't really matter. Life points don't matter in this game until you're out of them. They're a resource before that. So after that, we're playing 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. And also, you heard me call it a Paleo build early on. These used to be, Cyclones used to be Oilinoides, and Foolish Goods used to be Morellas. Because they do the same thing, but after some testing with it, I realized that it's better off for me running the spells versus the traps. Because the Paleos come back as normal monsters, which is good interaction with the deck. And people, like I said, they forget about that. But the issue is, if I lose that dice roll or game 2, I have to side out so many cards if I know I'm going second. Because the traps aren't live that first turn for me. With the spells, they're always live. I can use them whenever I need to. This is actually a really good bailout play with the next card that's the target for it. In case I don't open the Oviraptor, it helps me get to it. And that next card is going to be Survival's End. A lot of you might not recognize this card. It's almost the best card in the deck. I almost want to run it at 3, honestly. I just don't have space. We're already sitting at 42 cards, and we don't want to bump it up anymore. But what this card does, it's a trap card, so it's always spell speed 2. That's the most important part. The on-field effect is pretty good. I feel like if I resolve it, I typically win, but it's not the reason we play the card. The on-field effect, you destroy as many normal monsters as possible, and then if you do, you special summon level 4 or lower dinosaurs from your deck, up to that number of normal monsters destroyed. And then those monsters are destroyed at the end of the turn. So, like I said, that just gets your engine going. You give them tokens with Nibiru, Lost World. It was really nice when Striker Engine was a thing, but that's gone now, thankfully. So lost a little bit of utility in that aspect, but we have so many ways to give them a normal monster. It's great. And then the real reason we're running it, especially with the Foolish Burial Goods, you send it to grave, and you can banish this card from your graveyard to target a dinosaur on your side of the field and a monster or any card on your opponent's side of the field, and it's going to destroy them. So what that means is if you open Lost World, any dinosaur, and Foolish Goods, you can pop your dinosaur, pop the token on their side of the field that you gave them when you summon the dinosaur, and you're going to protect the token, pop a baby instead, and you're going to get Oviraptor summoned from deck. So that gets you back into your turn 1 plays with so little effort. It's been a great bailout, and like I said, this is my favorite card. Almost everybody has to read this card. They don't know what it does. It surprises everyone. And it's just really underplayed for how strong it is, I think. But our next card, interaction with it, we're running 2 copies of Phantom Knights of Shade Brigandine. This is our other bailout card. Giant Rex is normally a big brick in this deck. Or it's a garnet, I guess, rather. But all this card does, when you flip it up, You can activate it at the turn it's set if you don't have a trap card in grave yet, and it summons itself as a level 4 normal monster. So what that means is if you draw Rex in this card, you suddenly can make a rank 4. Abyss Dweller, Time Thief, you'll see what I'm running in the extra deck here in a few, but all it's doing is enabling your plays with bad hands, and it also combos off if you draw this because, like I said, it's a normal monster. People will attack this with Lost World up because they forget, especially once they've already seen game happening in their head. So they see you activate this and they don't think anything of it. They swing into it. You probably ruin their OTK and turn your engine back on, so you turn around and you kill them on your following turn too. It was really great. This was the card that Pride was my guinea pig for. I was debating it for a while, and this was the reason the build's actually at 42, because I was running 40 for a while and I had nothing I was willing to cut, but I wanted to play these, so I just bumped it up. They've been doing great for me. Our other traps are a little bit more standard. We have 2 compulsory evacuation device. It's just my favorite trap card. I see other people try and crack down sometimes. Not quite as much of a fan of it, since if it gets popped, they get the monster back. There are some downsides to this, though. You don't want to like bounce something like a Scrap Recycler or something that's going to give them an on-summon effect. But you can hit something like an Appaloosa once they condense their board down, and it hurts turns a lot. I also use it a lot to dodge like evenly matched if I didn't set up a negate for it on my turn 1 board, or if they try to like imperm my Oviraptor and I don't have a miscellaneous to protect it, I'll bounce my own Oviraptor. So I'll have it back in hand to use next turn, and its effect will still resolve since it imperms losing its target. So, and then our last trap, really strong, Solemn Judgment. Like I said, life points are a resource. Paying half to say no is completely worth it. But that's the main deck. Like I said, 42 cards. Used to be 40. It was worth bumping up. I've still seen what I needed for the most part all weekend. After that, we are looking at our extra deck. We played 2 copies of Evolvestar Dolka. This card is insane. It would probably be banned if it wasn't restricted to dinosaurs. Basically, it's Solemn Strike on, negate destroy monster effects, and it is not once per turn, and it only detaches 1 to do so. So this plus Pankratops alone is 3 interruptions. If you open any of your back row with it, you're looking at up to 6 or 7. It's insane. After that, we have Judgment on legs with 2 Dolkas. This one's a little less important. There's a few matchups it comes up, control and whatnot, but it's still really good. I definitely wouldn't play without at least 1. I like it at 2. It comes up fairly often for me. After that, our next one is Abyss Dweller. Everything's used in their graveyard as a resource nowadays. Dweller shutting that graveyard off is super strong. And like I said, with Shade Brigading, it's one of our backup plans, since our other 2 rank 4s we just seen require dinosaurs and not just anything generic. So if you can put that Dweller up, you probably live that turn at the very least. Dweller plus Pank is really strong. Just a great card. It also came up a lot this weekend. You can use Dweller on your own turn after you make it, just to detach a material. Even if they don't plan to use anything from graveyard, being able to put a dinosaur back in grave to banish for like a Ultimate Conductor is really good, and it's hard to find rank 4s that will just remove things for you for free like that sometimes. So it's a nice utility that people don't really acknowledge very much. After that, our last 2 of rank 4 is going to be number 60, Dugaris the Timeless. 3 great effects. The one we really care about is Detach 2, double Conductor's attack to 7k. When you have a monster that's attacking everything with 7k attack, chances are that game ends that turn, so skipping your next battle phase doesn't matter whatsoever. I knew this card was going to be insane as soon as I seen the leaks for it way back when, and I picked it up early, and it's been great ever since. After that, our first Link 2, we're going to jump to Links because it's the only one we're running 2 of. It's Pentastag. Same vein as Dugaris, you give a Conductor Piercing when it's attacking everything, and they're in trouble real fast. Especially when we're giving them 0 defense tokens left and right. I've had games where I would be in line to do upwards of 11k damage in a turn, just because I'm swinging into 2 or 3 tokens sometimes, with a conductor under pentastag, and sometimes I can even do Garrus double the conductor first, and it gets insane real fast. It came up for me so often. I can't ever believe when people are running less than 2 of these when they're playing Extrav builds, because it's so good for condensing your... 1, it puts dinos in grace because it's linked to. 2, it ends games with conductor underneath it. So after that, we'll go ahead and do our last link monster while we're here. Nightmare Phoenix. It's staple. I don't think it actually came up for me this weekend. Don't care for the card a whole lot, but it's a staple that's hard to justify cutting sometimes. If I had a better link monster that I wanted to run, I would probably get rid of it, but for now it's doing alright. After that, we're going to hop back into our rank 4s that we're playing one-ofs. One Baguska. This used to be a Blackluster Soldier of Chaos with Pankratops to 1, though. It wasn't coming up very often, and I wanted another Floodgate, and it's a good option I felt like into Shadal's and Infernoids, because Infernoids basically can't get rid of this card. Most decks, if you put this in the extra monster zone, they can't get over it very easily, and like Cerberus can't hit it, and like they have to like climb into a Nightmare Unicorn without using on-field effects for the most part, which is really hard to do, and even if they do it, they commit like 4 cards to getting rid of 1 body. It's another generic rank 4, so it's just great. It didn't come up this weekend, unfortunately. I didn't play any Infernoids or Shadalls, surprisingly. But I was expecting to see them. I heard there was a bunch of them there. I seen a couple, just didn't play them myself. So I was glad to have it. I'm going to keep it. After that, Cowboy. These time rules are garbage. I want a way to win in time. Thankfully, it doesn't come up a whole lot because we kill them so fast in this deck that time just isn't a factor most of the time. Other thing I find myself doing with this a lot. I find a lot of scenarios where I'm doing just over 7,000 damage, but not quite pushing for game. Usually I can condense my board down and link off and make this underneath a pentastag or whatever it may be and burn them for that last little bit of damage. Cowboy for game taking a whole new meaning in that aspect, but it's come up like that for me a lot in testing. Like I said, I don't think I made it a single time this weekend, actually, because I had one match that went to time, and it just didn't matter at that point. After that, we have Tornado Dragon, just more spell trap removal, good into control matchups. I played a 1 stun deck this weekend, and I made it into that. It did work for me there. And then the MVP this weekend, though, was Time Thief Redoer. This card is insane. It has some of the biggest stat lines for a rank 4 out of any of them. Stealing cards from your opponent and attaching to itself is absurd. The monster effect, detaching a monster lets you banish it until the end of the turn, which puts dinos in your graveyard off of a rank 4 instead of a link, which is something that's really nice to do sometimes. I had to do it a couple times this weekend. Stealing a spell card to draw a card, just make sure you're maintaining a hand advantage. I had one game this weekend. I was against Extravagant Spirals, and they didn't have much of a board because I hand trapped them with and stuff and stopped their plays. But they left the Spiral Resort on board. On their turn, when they tried to activate it, I activated Redoer, bounced it to the top of their deck, and they didn't have any way to shuffle or anything, so they had to pass back to me. I stole the Resort during my standby phase, detached it immediately to draw an extra card, and I drew into a Pot of Extravagance, which just meant I drew 3 cards that turn for, like, nothing. So, it was great. And the other effect... Shade Brigandine enables this because the Detach a Trap lets you spin any face-up card your opponent controls. And the unique thing is with Redoer, he doesn't detach for cost. He does it at resolution. So if they negate him, he keeps his materials. So I seen a lot of people making like 3 negate Appaloozas versus me, and I would make Redoer with the Shade Brigandine and whatever level 4 that I opened. And I would declare Redoer effect, and if they use the Appaloosa negate, she drops down to 1600 attack. I still have my interruption on their turn. If they don't use the negate, I spin Appaloosa back and I don't have to worry about her. So, kind of a lose-lose scenario for them. It came up for me 3 or 4 times this weekend. It was so key to winning games. Absolutely love it. I almost want to run a second one of these now, but kind of hard to find the space. I'm a little bit limited because of Extrav, but it's worth it. We'll jump on into the side. Of course, this is going to change format to format, but First up, we have Artifact Lancia. Great against dinos, great against a lot of things. There's a weird notion it's not good against spirals. This was the reason my opponent that was on Extrav Spirals couldn't do much to me. He loaded up his graveyard on his first turn after he used an Extravagance. And as soon as I seen him load up the grave, I went ahead and fired off the first Lancia because I opened both of them. And I was thinking it was a brick hand at first, but I had some good top decks afterward. But the Lancia stunned him out for one turn. He ended on a 3-negate Appaloosa. And then next turn, it was after I spun back the Spiral Resort. I shotgunned the second Lancia in that standby phase, and he had Sleeper and like another Extravagance in hand or something. So he basically had no plays that turn because of these. That infinite quick fix that everybody talks about is not nearly as threatening as it's made out to be. They make like an Appaloosa Dweller at most under this, so. But we do have other options for him as well. And Droll and Lock, also good for the hero matchup, which I managed to dodge this weekend. I think every time I sided Droll in, I never seen it. Oh, that's another thing. I'm running a lot of 2-ofs. I like siding 2, 2, and 2 instead of like 3 and 3 for matchups. I don't want to see the same card when I'm interacting with my opponent in multiples usually. So trying to spread them out into 2, 2, and 2 reduces that. But I still play the high impact cards anyway. It does lead to a situation like that where I was siding Droll and I just never seen him, but I didn't need it in any of those games either, so it was fine. After that, we were playing 2 Kaijus, Gamma Seal and Doggeran. I was running 3 at first. I had to cut 1 to make room for one of my 3-ofs in the side that I absolutely wanted to see in my opening hand. But everybody likes the 1-of Doggeran. I like it in the Shadal matchup. But in most cases, if you're trying to search this, since this is a dinosaur, the search doesn't resolve because you normal summon that Ovi, and they're going to negate it because you needed the Doggeran first to get rid of that problem card. So I don't really care too much that it's searchable. I almost want to run a second Gamma Seal instead because 2200 gets shrunk to 1700 under Lost World, and it means almost everything in my deck can beat over it. So Gamma Seal's really good. Doggeran's not bad, but I think it's a little overrated in the deck, honestly. After that, we have 3 copies of Dimension Shifter. I don't think anybody was expecting this card this weekend. I actually only got to side it in once, funny enough. Or only felt like I needed to side it once. It was against Rock BA. And what I did that turn, I activated Fossil Dig. I was going first. And chained the Shifter to it. So the Fossil Dig resolves after Shifter, so it gets banished, but I searched Oviraptor. Normal Ovi, Sin Giant Rex. Rex gets banished because of this effect, immediately comes back. And I made a Dolka and set an Infinite Impermanence. So he was trying to play without a graveyard against 2 negates and a third unknown, which was another negate, unfortunately. But it ended up blowing him out. He couldn't do anything for that game, and I just killed him turn 2. I didn't quite kill him on turn 2. I got him really weak. I still had a Dolka negate when all was said and done and built a little bit more of a board around it. And he just couldn't do anything through it. Killed him on turn 3. After that, sorry again, budget players, but we're playing 3 Lightning Storm. Got to have another answer to control decks. Our control matchup's not that bad, but Storm's just such a good card. There's a reason it costs as much as it does. Not much to say about that one. Seen it a lot this week, and it did a lot of work for me. Evenly was the other one. Also, like Lightning Storm, it just breaks apart boards. I don't care that I lose the battle phase. I'm just going to set up a turn 1 control board like normal and pretend I went first. I still have 5 cards in hand. I'm playing through 1 interaction. It's not that difficult for the deck to do. So that was the main side. An extra quick matchup rundown. Round 1, I think, was Mathmex. Most of my opponents were pretty nice. Had no issues with them. Game 1 just kind of blew him out. He didn't know what to expect. Game 2, I gave him a token, and he opened so many targeting things and evenly and just couldn't make plays because of the token on board. So, I cleaned that one up pretty easy. Round 2 was against Guru Control, and I lost that one. I opened some of the worst hands with this deck that I've ever opened. Game 1, I opened all back row. I didn't see a single dinosaur until like 6 or 7 turns in, and he had negates and everything else ready for the Overraptor that I top decked. So we scooped that one up. And game 2, I seen a baby, a petite, double conductor, and a giant Rex. So I just could do nothing turn 1. It was literally set Rex pass, and not much I could do there. He was a nice guy again, but it was rough. Round 3, I was against Stun. Border sent me out game 1. Game 2, I made Logian Pank with the Lost World token, so he couldn't target anything. He couldn't get around that. And then game 3 was really awkward. I opened double Imperm and Ovi, and his turn was set 2. He set 3 and normal Border. And one of the set cards I knew was a Solemn Judgment because he ripped it off the top with a Duality. What I did, I Impermed the Border, normaled Ovi, searched another Ovi for my follow-up next turn. I Lightning Storm to try to clear his back row first. Didn't work, obviously. He had a Judgment, so he fires that off. After that, I went Battle Phase, dropped him evenly on him. He got rid of both the back rows, kept the Border. So after that, I Impermed the Border, normaled the Ovi, searched another Ovi for next turn, and set the other Imperm and just passed it to him. And he normal summoned Thunder King Ryo on his next turn, and beat over the Ovi, swung direct, did a little bit of damage, but I had double conductors still left in hand and an Ovi. I had double conductor and an Ovi left in hand. So I Impermed the Border at the start of my turn, normaled the Ovi, sent a Miscellaneous Source, and just comboed off from there. I was able to end up making the Conductor live and all sorts of other things. I don't remember the full line of play. It would take a minute to explain it all, but it was really good. Round 4 was against the Extrav Spiral player. I was impressed. He actually knew what build of dinosaurs I was playing, which very rarely happens to me. He bricked hard. Game 1 just did nothing. Game 2, I told you it was the double Lancia redoer play, just forced him out. Round 5 was against Lunalights, Dolka Pink with an Imperm set. He couldn't play through game 1. Game 2, I sided for second, but he made me go first. But I opened like combo, double Nibiru, and Imperm. So he basically did nothing again turn 1. Had a bunch of interruptions for me, funny enough, but I had like 3 different routes to OTK him. And every time he interrupted me for one, I went into the other one, and by the time I got to the third one, he was out of resources, so game was over. Round 6 was against Generator Dinos. That was a really interesting matchup. This was the one that went to time that I think I would have lost regardless of the Cyclone. He basically set 3 and activated the Generator spell when he passed to me. I drew a Cyclone for turn, and when he activated the Field spell, I chained the Cyclone to it to banish it and stop that effect. And he waits till resolution and activates the trap that activates a new one and makes me draw a card. So he still got to make his play on resolution of that. He survivals end and hit all his tokens and summoned a bunch of dinosaurs. At this point, we had no time left. Game 2 was a super long grind that I ended up losing. But at this point, he had a full board of dinos. I Nibiru'd him. He had the Misk in hand. And when I tried to swing the Nibiru, he just used the Survival's Engrave, popped a Petite he summoned off of the Survival's End to summon a Pankratops, which went and then popped my Pankratops. So I had nothing left to battle with, and time was called. So, like I said, I don't think it mattered. He had so much advantage going into his next turn. I'm pretty sure I lose that game regardless. And he was super cool. I exchanged profiles with him. Rock BA was my round 7. He spent 15-20 minutes game 1 building Avermax, Natbeast, Dingursu. I just scooped up, didn't show him what I was playing. Game 2 I went first, made a Dweller Pank with a set Compulse. He made a little board through my interactions, and I OTK'd him when I got the turn back. Game 3, he made me go first again, which was surprising, and that was the one I sided in the Dimension Shifters, and I did that combo that I mentioned earlier. So I ended up winning with that. And then round 8 was against True King Dinos. I had to win this one to get the invite. He was playing a little bit of spice in there. He had the Fire Tinny as a level 4 that could summon for free. Also a Fire True King target.
He was pretty cool. I felt bad for him. We were actually talking when we walked up to look at pairings, and I didn't know him or anything. And then we talked, went our separate ways, went to the table, sat down, and lo and behold, he walks up, and it's like, oh, hi again. And that was that. Good weekend. Thanks for watching. Y'all take care. And if you're interested in chatting with me about the build or anything, feel free to join the Dino Discord. I'll post a link down below. And take it easy.